So you want to play with One UI 4.0 beta, but you didn't get access into the beta program. I'm going to show you how to run it. The first thing you want to do is completely turn your phone off. Now with that completely off, have a USB-C cable plugged into your computer and just leave that to the side for now. Now this will work for the Galaxy S20, S20 Plus, S20 Ultra, S21, S21 Plus, S21 Ultra, as well as all of the Exynos variants of those phones. However, the files that I have are specifically for the Snapdragon S21 Ultra. So if you can find the firmware files for your specific device, then you can follow along just like normal. You just have to replace the S21 Ultra files that I'm using with the ones that correspond with your device. Now, on the computer here, I'm going to open Discord, and you can see here that in the Android section, I have a full guide that I've written. So we'll open this, and now we're going to be following along with this guide to show you exactly this step-by-step process. Right here, you can see that this is how to install One UI 4.0. It's for the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. The model numbers specifically for this one are the SMG998W, U, and U1 variants of this phone, but like I had already mentioned, you can use this guide for any of these Galaxy S series phones as long as you have the corresponding firmware, because I only have an S21 Ultra, so I only have the firmware files for that specific device. Now, just on the side here, we can go to downloads. So I've written down here that if you are on an SMG998W, U, or if you're on a U1 that has a baseband version that is older or newer than a 4AUH9, then you're going to have to flash this file. So this file right here is the full firmware from Samsung. This is not going to void your warranty or brick your phone or anything like that. This is just a factory firmware file directly from Samsung. And this file here is the SMG998U1 with XAA CSC. The build is 4AUH9, which is the one that we need. So now to flash that file, we're going to need the patched Odin. Now you only need patched Odin if you're going from a W or a U variant phone. If you're already on U1, then you don't need the patched one, but it really doesn't matter. You could use the patched one regardless, even if you don't need it, so you might as well use it. So now I'm hosting all of these files just in case any of the links go down from where I found them. So this right here is a link directly to Google Drive where you can download Odin 3.14.3, the patched version, and the source right here is from RealBBB on XDA, and we can click here and you can see that this is the thread where I got it from, and this right here is the file that I downloaded. Next, need the Samsung USB drivers. This is only for Windows. You don't need this for Linux. So you can download it right here, or this is a direct link to download it from Samsung directly. Then you want to download the One UI 4.0 Beta 1, which again right here I have linked on Google Drive, or if you want, you can get it from Eliwigi on XDA, and this right here goes to the post where they posted the download to this firmware. So we're using the over-the-air update from them. So they're the ones who provided this for us to actually use. So huge props to them for taking the time to capture that over-the-air update. Right here I just have a placeholder for Beta 2 because it's supposed to be coming out relatively soon, so by the time this video goes live, Beta 2 may already be out. So I will show you the process of how to update. I don't have it updated in here yet, and I don't have a file to update, but this is exactly the same as it was for One UI Beta 3 on the S20 Ultra that I did, so really there's nothing different here. It's just I'm going to try and go in a little bit more in depth so I can get rid of a lot of the confusion that people were having, which is why I wrote this very detailed guide on everything that you need to do. Next, we have to download platform tools, so that's going to enable ADB access for us to use with Windows to access the phone itself. So right here is a download to download the file that I'm hosting, or you can get it directly from the source. And if you're running Linux, all you have to do is open terminal and just type in sudo apt install android-tools-adb -y for the yes flag at the end there, and then that will just automatically say yes to all of the prompts that come up and fully install ADB tools on Linux. Now we can go to preparing Windows. So right here we have to install the Samsung USB driver. So to install Samsung USB driver, you literally just open this and install it. It's just a regular installer file, just like anything else. If I'm showing you how to use this, then this is probably over your head and you shouldn't be doing this. Now just keeping in mind that I'm running Windows 11 build 22468, so this is the developer preview, but it did work for me on this. So literally running beta software on beta software. So if you're running a stable version of Windows 10 or the stable version of Windows 11, then I don't see why this shouldn't work, because I'm literally in an instance where I should have the most trouble, and it still worked perfectly for me. And the next step here is that we have to extract the platform tools folder in the zip file to C:\program files /Android /. We're going to open the platform tools zip. We are going to extract all. Now you can either just copy this location and it'll make it, but I have Android SDK installed. So for me, I already have the Android folder. Normally there isn't one, it'll have to create one, but I have one, and then this right here would be where it installs. So then after selecting the folder, we just hit extract. It's going to extract everything, but I've already done that again. So like all great cooking shows, we can move right along. One thing you don't have to do is this portion here, but I did see some people having issues flashing the file because it wasn't in the correct folder. So to make life significantly easier and to make everything go a lot smoother in the future, we're going to make ADB system-wide. Normally, without this being done, if I just open Windows Terminal and if I type in any kind of ADB command, it's not going to work. But if we're on Windows 10, we can go to Control Panel, System and Security, System, and then Advanced System Settings. So for that, we would just open a File Explorer, click this little icon right here between the icon and this PC, and just go to Control Panel, System and Security, right here, System. Now for me, because I'm on Windows 11, it automatically opens System. And from here, you're just going to go to Advanced System Settings. Now, depending on which version of Windows 10 you're on, Advanced System Settings will be over here on the left, or it will be over here on the right. And then for Windows 11, go to the little start orb thing here, you go to Settings, which opens right on System, and you just go down to About, and you're at this exact same window where we will click Advanced System Settings. So that's the only differences between Windows 10 and Windows 11. From this point forward, it's exactly the same. Now we're at this portion right here where I've written down that in the Advanced System Settings window that comes up, this one right here, go to Environment Variables, which is right here in the bottom right. Now, under the System Variables section, right here, this bottom one, we can click on Path and click the Edit button. Now, I've seen lots of guides before where they say to click New, but if you click New, then you're going to erase all of the Windows allocated system directories, which then means that you can't do anything other than ADB. So you can't format hard drives or anything, and you can't even make USB installers using Rufus because it relies on command line in the background, and if you remove this, it'll completely break it. So for this, we're going to click Edit. Now in here, we can click New, and we can add the C:\program files /Android /platform -tools, which you can see that I already have added here, so I don't need to do anything there. And we are completely done with all of this. The system is now prepped, and we can use ADB system-wide without changing any directories. So we'll just slap down here to Windows Terminal, and I'll just type in ADB version, and you can see that ADB comes up. We can open a command prompt, ADB version, and you can see that it still comes up. So we have ADB system-wide. Back up here to the guide, we can go to Preparing Linux, which you don't have to do anything, because that command that we typed in right here, that's it. You're done. You don't have to do anything else after that. It's already system-wide, and you don't need the Samsung drivers or anything. So on Linux, this is significantly easier than on Windows. Now, preparing your phone. This is very important. This is the part where most people are having issues because they're not following this exactly. We have to back up everything off of our phone because we are going to be doing a full factory reset. We're going to be deleting everything off of the phone. Now, in the notes at the bottom here, I mentioned how you don't have to do this. You can get away with not performing a factory reset. It's just not worth it. Just converting the phone over to U1, let alone running beta software. So get ready to do a factory reset and get ready to have nothing on your phone because we have to delete everything to have the best stability. So again, you don't have to do a factory reset, but you should. Because if you're having any issues, it's very likely a cause of you not doing a factory reset. So if you are on SMG998U1 XAA with a baseband ending in 4AUH9, all you have to do is just go to Settings, General Management, Reset, and do a factory data reset. Once you're done the factory data reset, you'll be at the setup screen, and you can just skip right to flashing One UI 4.0, which you can just click and it goes directly to there. But because this is the full guide, I'm going to show you everything. So if you are on an SMG998W U or a U1 variant, but the baseband does not end in 4AU-H9, so that can be older or newer, then you're going to have to flash the correct firmware, and that's this firmware right here on the desktop. Now we have to extract the files. Now I've already done this, so we just have a folder here with the extracted files, and we want to open Odin 3.14.1. So I've just extracted that, and we have this folder right here, so we're just going to open this, and that's just saying that you don't want to have any accounts or anything on your phone before using this. Now all we have to do is just fill these boxes with the corresponding files. Like I've written down in the guide here, start adding the corresponding files for BL, AP, this one's going to take a really long time, and CP. This is the extracted folder, so we're going to open BL. Under BL, we're going to open AP. Now, like I mentioned, this is taking a while. This is an i7 10875, 32 gigs of RAM, has liquid metal, and it's still taking a while to actually load this file. And in the last video that I made about One UI 3.0 beta, again, I mentioned how long this AP file takes, and that was on my i9 9900K with, again, 32 gigs of RAM, and the whole thing's liquid cooled. So don't touch anything, because if you click anything right now, Windows might recognize that it's not responding, and it'll just crash. So just literally just sit here. Don't do anything. There, now the file is done. So now we can click CP, we can add CP, and now for this last one, CSC, this is where you don't have to wipe your phone. So when we're selecting this file here, CSC is going to do a factory reset, and that's the one that we want to use. Home CSC is going to retain all of your user data, and it's not going to do a factory reset. The only time you should ever use Home CSC and why it exists is if you are on a U1 and you're just simply updating. That's it, because then it's just a simple update. But when you're converting from a different variant phone, there are different files running in the background that can now cause corruption with each other, which will cause tons of issues. Not to mention, we're switching from a full different version of Android as well. So these are two huge factors where we're converting a W or a U phone to a U1. So we already have conflicting files in the background, and then we're switching from Android 11 to Android 12 by going from One UI 3.1 to One UI 4.0. So we want to use CSC. With all of these files loaded and we're ready to go, we have the Samsung driver installed and everything, all we have to do is flash the phone and it will convert it from a W or a U variant over to a U1, or it'll change whatever version you're on if it's U1 to 4AU-H9. So no matter which of these three phones you're on or what your baseband version ends in, by the end of this, you will be on SMG998U1 XAA 4AU-H9, which is the firmware that we need in order for this to work. If you're not on this, it will not work. So now, let's switch over to the phone real quick here. The two volume buttons right here, we're just going to hold both of those, and now we're going to plug the USB cable in. Now that's going to power on the phone, and as soon as the screen lights up, we can let go. So now we can let go of the two volume buttons, and we're at this little warning message here. It's just saying that if we hit volume up, we can continue. If we hit volume down, we can cancel and restart the phone. So we're going to hit volume up to continue because we want to go to download mode. Now that we're in download mode, you can see that on Odin that we have COM3 come up. So now all we have to do is hit start, and it's going to flash all of these files and convert the phone into the firmware that we need, which again I've already done, so I don't need to do this, and we'll just save a lot of time and continue ahead. Firmware is flashed and we are on SMG998U1 XAA 4AU-H9. Hey, and then right here is just the steps that I just explained, where you have your phone off completely. We did that at the beginning. We held both volume buttons down. Then we connected the USB cable from the computer, so that was supplying power to the phone to turn it on for us, because some variants of the phone, it won't actually allow you to access download mode if you use the power button, so this is just a bypass for that, and it works on all of them, so that's the preferred method that I use. Okay, it'll power on the phone, give the prompt, then we can release the volume keys. Once you see the prompt, hit volume up to continue to download mode. Once you're in download mode, Odin sees the phone, simply hit start and wait until it is completed. Perfect. So now we can finally go to flashing One UI 4.0. So now if you followed everything correctly, you should be at the setup screen. Now this is how I was doing it before, but there's an alternative method that EllyWiggy has suggested. For the video's sake, I'm going to be showing this, but the main method that I was using before was that you set up your phone with no account. So you just fly through the... If you're going from the alternative method that EllyWiggy has suggested, then you're going to be starting at this command right here, power off the phone completely. Once it's powered off, we're going to hold volume up and power until we see the Samsung logo. The phone will now reboot into recovery mode, and then you can use the volume buttons to navigate up and down to select apply update via ADB. Then you use the power button to select that option, and that will prep ADB sideload. Switching back to the phone right here. Okay, so now we can hold volume up and power until we see the Samsung logo come up. There we go, we can let go, and now we're in recovery. So now we're just going to use the volume buttons to navigate here, and we're going to go to apply update from ADB, and we're going to hit the power button, and now ADB sideload is prepped. Now if we just snap back down here to Windows Terminal, we can go to ADB devices, and you can see that we have a string of numbers right here which already says that we are in sideload. We can just do ADB sideload space, and now we can take this file right here, which is One UI 4.0 beta 1. This is the update zip, and we can just drag this over and it'll paste right here. So now we have this full command at the bottom. So now once your command says ADB sideload, and then in quotations I have path to file, because this path will be different depending on where you have that file saved. So if it's in downloads, it'll be in downloads, and depending on what your user account is called, that'll be different as well. So that's why I can't give an exact location, and I just put path to file, which I've found a lot of people be very confused because they actually type path to file. Don't actually type this. This in quotations is literally this path right here quoted, which is directly to where my file is. You can just hit enter, sit back, relax. It's going to take a while. It's verifying everything is correct. This update file right here, there's going to be a script, and that's going to check to see what firmware the phone is on first. So because this was captured on a U1 variant with XAA with a baseband version for a UH9, it can only be flashed on that firmware. So if you have a newer or an older version, it will not work. Even if it's the same model number, you have to be on that specific firmware. So this firmware right here is essentially a conversion between U1 XAA 4AU H9 to XAA 4ZUID. That is the only way this works. It only works converting from one firmware to this one because it is an over-the-air update. And you can flash this firmware here, because it's an official Samsung file, on any S21 Ultra that has the corresponding hardware to match with this firmware. So because this is an over-the-air update, it has to be flashed on this firmware only. And that is where tons of people are having issues, because they are not on this exact firmware. So now, once that command is done, the phone will reboot into recovery, so we can use the volume keys again to navigate, but it should already be on the top option to reboot, and we just hit the power button to select that option, and it'll reboot the phone. So when you reboot the phone from recovery, you'll be at the setup screen, and that's just going to be for the best stability. And the phone is exclusively using One UI 4.0 beta 1. Now at this point in time, you have an SMG998U1 XAA, which is running One UI 4.0 beta 1. What about flashing over-the-air updates? Well, at this point in time, there are no over-the-air updates, but there is one supposed to be coming out either this week or next week or something, but it might not be released by the time this video goes up. Maybe it was released. So I'm just going to show you how to update, because this is the same process as it was for One UI beta 3. So all we have to do at this point is start back from here. So now that we are on a fresh install of One UI 4.0, when there's a new over-the-air update that someone has posted on XDA, which I'll update this guide to include all of the links, and I'll host a mirror to all of the files myself in case any of those links go down. So you can always find the latest of everything at our Discord. But once there's an over-the-air update, you can power off the phone completely. Once it's off, volume up, power button until you see the Samsung logo. It'll reboot to recovery mode. Then you can use the volume buttons to navigate down to apply update from ADB. You can use the power button to select that option to prep ADB sideload. We're literally just going to be repeating this exact same step. Snap back down to the Windows terminal here. Now in this instance, we are currently on One UI 4.0 beta 1. We've used the alternative method to go in through recovery to ADB sideload. Now we can go to ADB sideload, and just like before, we're just going to drag beta 2. So now you can see that this is another path to file, except right here it's 4.0 beta 2. Now this is not actually beta 2, this is just a placeholder so I could make the video including a file, because no file currently exists. And all we're going to do is just flash this file right on top. And because we are already on a U1 variant, we're already on XAA, and we're already on Android 12 One UI 4.0, we do not need to do a factory reset after this is done. So once this update finishes flashing onto the phone that currently has One UI 4.0, it'll reboot into recovery. We just reboot the phone from there, and that's it. We're done. We've just updated to the latest version. We don't have to do a factory reset. We don't have to set anything up again. Nothing. Then that's basically it. That's how you update. So that's why I wanted to include it in this video and not make a separate video for it, because it literally takes 2 seconds once you actually have everything set up. So now, just at the end here, once you have done the factory reset on 4.0 beta 1, you can now set up your phone just like normal. You don't have to do a factory reset from this point forward. You can sign into your account, you can restore your backup, download your apps, do whatever you wish to do for testing. Now, I wouldn't recommend using this as a daily because it's beta. It's not stable. There will be bugs. We don't know what they will be, or when they'll happen, or if they'll happen. But that's kind of the name of the game of playing with bleeding edge software, is you kind of have to take the hits as they roll out. But that's basically it. If we go down here to the notes, again, saying that you don't need to do a factory reset if you have a U1 variant already on this build version, but it can cause huge stability issues. You do not need to do a factory reset if you're going from a W or U to U1 with an older and newer baseband version by using home CSC in Odin, but again, can cause huge stability issues, which I've already explained earlier. And then, as mentioned at the beginning of the guide, this can be used with a Snapdragon S20, S20 Plus, S20 Ultra, S21, S21 Plus, and then obviously I don't have to mention the S21 Ultra because that's what this entire guide is written for. Now, I don't have the files for those devices. I don't own those devices. I only have Snapdragon S21 Ultra. So these alternative devices, the files may be found on XDA if others have captured and shared the over-the-air update bin files. So if someone else with one of these variants of phone have captured that update bin file and then posted the bin file or a zip file on XDA, then you can use it. But you have to check inside the update bin. So now in this update right here, you have to check. You actually have to go in here. You have to go to Meta-INF, go to COM, go to Google, go to Android, and then in here there's an update script, so we'll open that. Just open it with Notepad. Now in here you can see that the source, so this is the firmware right here that it needs to find in order to flash. So right here you can see the full build number that comes up, so that's the firmware that it needs to see in order to flash this new firmware for One UI 4.0. So if you download one of those bin files for an update, you have to check this first. You have to go in here and find this firmware and flash your phone to this firmware in order to use this over-the-air update. That's the biggest confusion that a lot of people are having. But as long as you make sure that your phone is on the firmware required for the over-the-air update, then you really have nothing to worry about. Now for some troubleshooting, ADB devices does not show anything coming up. Reboot the computer. Try a USB 2.0 port, try a different cable. Reinstall the USB driver, or just try a different computer. I've had this work on Windows 10, so that's my desktop, which is running build 19044, and that worked on USB 2.0. However, 3.0 and 3.1 did not work, but I think that might actually be an issue with my computer that I'm having right now. For the recent flash process, I did it on Windows 11 build 22463, which right now is actually out of date. There's a new build that came out, which, like I showed earlier when I tested it, it was on an older build. So I'm actually updated a little bit further than when I wrote this guide, but this did work on USB 3.1. So I'm running heavily beta versions of Windows and a beta firmware for the phone, and it still works. So as long as you follow this guide exactly, then you're not going to have any issues. Now, if you want to go back to One UI 3.1, I've seen a lot of people ask this, all you have to do is just follow that first step of just going to Odin, and then we're just going to fill all of these boxes with the files for firmware 4AU-H9. It's just going to go right back to One UI 3.1. And that also converts your phone into the unlocked firmware. So I would just leave your phone right here at this point. I wouldn't even go back to W or a U variant. I would just leave it at this. This is the best possible solution. So even if you just want to test this, then at the end of the day, you're still back at an unlocked firmware. But you can see that I have linked here back to preparing your phone. So it'll just go right back to preparing your phone. Then you know how to put all those files in, just in case you forgot any of that. Now again, you may be able to use home CSC to retain your data, but be aware that issues will likely follow by leaving One UI 4.0 rogue system files in the background. It is always best to do a factory reset after any major update, and I cannot stress this enough. Do not get emotionally attached to your files. They're just files. As long as you do routine backups, then you're not going to have any huge issues, because at any point you could break your phone. Your phone could get stolen. They could push an update that completely bricks your phone. I'm not saying these things are likely to happen, but they could happen, and you always have to prepare yourself for an instance like this. So having a complete cloud backup of everything that just does it automatically while you're sleeping is the best way to do that. And on Samsung phones, which is why I've exclusively switched to Samsung phones, because they have the best backup system out of any Android phone that I've used, is that they will back up every single thing on that phone. And then it also works with OneDrive and everything, which is seamless with Windows and all that stupid future nonsense and whatever. And then Cortana and ALEXA work together. I don't know. Samsung, Microsoft, and Amazon just kind of have this whole like tech trifecta going. I love the direction that all of this is going in. If you found something useful, you know, like the video, that's cool. You can dislike it if that's how you felt, that's alright too. Subscribe if you want, that helps out a lot. You can even join the members program if you want to help support the channel. Or, you know, don't do any of it. I'm not telling you what to do.